The emphasis today is so much more about child-centered learning. Kids actually being an important part in the learning process, more so than what most of us as adults remember, where teachers were in the front of the room, they taught, we listened, we learned, and at the end of the day, we regurgitated a great deal of what was said. Today's different. Today, kids own their own education, and that's not the way it used to be.
There are 400 ways to be a boy, whether it's through the arts, whether it's through the sports, whether it's through music, in many different ways, that there are 400 ways to be a boy at Town School, and I see that reflected in many ways.
You can't just have a classroom where students simply follow the instructions of the teacher anymore. You need a little bit of that, but really you also need learning experiences where students have to think on their feet. They're not just solving problems, they're trying to figure out what the problem is that they need to answer, and then pursuing the knowledge that they need to gather and analyzing that knowledge in order to come up with a solution for that problem.
Well, I think the community is one of the greatest assets the town has, and I think that it's not something that can be scaled and replaced when you think about different ways to kind of move a school forward. I think that's something really special here, the relationships that people have between faculty, students, parents.
Changes in the building and in our use of technology have been transformational over the past few years. They've really allowed us to choose what we need to do in order to teach. They've allowed students to choose what they need in order to learn, rather than having those choices forced on them.
What's happened here is that we've recognized that there are different academic needs that need to be met. When you talk about a STEM center, it's having a space and a room that can facilitate the kind of learning where kids are in charge of what's going on.
So we're taking a more integrated approach with science, technology, engineering, and math, so that they don't see these subjects in sort of silos, but they really see them as working all together and fitting together. And we're doing that through real-life problem solving and hands-on learning that really inspires kind of a joyful engagement in the real world.
At Town, we prepare students for living in the global world in the future by looking at projects that allow them an opportunity to learn about other people, other places, countries, cultures.
I think in addition to what we already do with STEAM, science, technology, engineering, language arts, and mathematics, is the idea of cultural competency and global awareness.
And we wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have space to collaborate together, because as you can imagine, 44 second graders and 44 eighth grade boys need a lot of space to build and collaborate and work and think and brainstorm.
One of the exciting parts of our campus is the addition of a second STEM lab.
What I like most about the new STEM Center is it has a lot more room for testing and other things. Even building, if you're building something big. And it also has just a lot of room.
The new building has really influenced positive change in my teaching. With our new movement studio, we've been able to incorporate a weekly yoga class as well as a weekly nutrition class.
The building allows for a level of transparency for our programming that never existed before. It encourages students and teachers alike to wonder what's happening behind the walls and inquire, and allows for better collaboration of programming.
Well, yeah, the building has influenced our teaching style. From the simple things, whereas like redoing the lights so there's a dimmer, so we can see an a digital projection better, and we can set the mood in the classroom just a little bit better, and that's a small but significant improvement.
In the after-school program, it's important that we utilize all the different spaces in the building because we have a lot of programs happening simultaneously.
We have space for robotics table. We're doing projects like green screening and multimedia projects that I had never done before with kids because quite simply we just didn't have the space.
One of the exciting parts about our classrooms are the interactive whiteboards. When I visit the classes to observe the intern teachers, I see how they're able to incorporate all kinds of activities for the students in a meaningful and interactive way.
So in this kind of new approach, again, we're seeing an integrated approach and tying together subjects so that kids can really see that in the real world, we don't just do math or do science, but we solve problems and we find solutions to whatever it is that we're trying to figure out.
I'm also the student government advisor, And we do food sales, we do some events, and that the building is better suited for that kind of thing.
By opening up the garage door, we're opening ourselves up to the world. And as we simultaneously study the world through global statistics, the boys are able to see the world from multiple perspectives.
So it's been really wonderful coming back to the building in its new form because all of the spaces are set up so nicely and the students are able to move from place to place and really share that space together.
When I see kids moving about the space, I think that for them, it's also a much better place for them to learn.
I use a lot more online technology in the classroom to help me figure out which exact kid doesn't get the concept or is struggling with the concept, so I can hone in on them and really help them out.
I think the most important thing about a town school education is really having the opportunity to be a part of developing and nurturing kind boys who love learning and understand the impact that they can have in the future.
The ability to collaborate with faculty across departments and grade levels, and the building really represented kind of this opportunity for change and collaboration that got me really excited.
It used to be that you had to fit the learning to the building. Now we can fit the building to the learning. Likewise with technology.
The sense of modernization of this building, we had a 1950s building that had been upgraded from time to time. But at the end of the day, we tore it down, we built this 21st century monolith that is stunningly interesting for kids. And the boys say to me on a regular basis, I love the new building. It makes me feel special.